Are you a mom that is struggling with the pain of estrangement, specifically around grief? Because if so, you know that grief is inevitable, right? So in this video, we're going to talk about how do you grieve your estranged child? And I'm going to share 3 things from my story that I personally struggled with, as well as the countless moms that I serve. So glad you're here. You know, when I was going through this, I can recall sitting in my therapist's office and her telling me that what I was going through was grief. And for some of you, if you're like me, I thought that grief was only when someone passes away, right? And so, but it's just not reality. It's not what I thought it was. I hadn't put that term to it. I hadn't named it that. And I didn't give my emotions that name, like I said, but as you know, grief cycles and you go through these different cycles so many times, it's definitely not a linear path. And so you can't judge yourself for where you are in the grief process or even how long it takes, because everyone is definitely different in that capacity. So I want to go through these. Number 1 is I want to talk about understanding the normalcy of grief, because acknowledging that grieving the estranged son or daughter of yours is natural and it's valid. It is a valid emotional response, and one that I wouldn't expect it to be any other way. You know, it is really important that you understand that it's okay to feel sadness, and it's okay to feel confusion and anger during this challenging time, right? This is probably very likely, as I've said many times, is one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult situation you've ever gone through. But I want to encourage you to give yourself permission to grieve without judgment. Don't let anyone tell you that it's been too long, or even that you've stayed in one of these stages too long, because how you grieve and how I grieved could be completely different. Having said that, there is something to be watchful and mindful of. If it goes too long, you need to seek professional help, okay? You definitely do. There's a time and a place for that, absolutely. And like I mentioned, I saw a therapist during the beginning stages of this journey that I was on with my daughter. But for those of you that are either new to my channel or I haven't talked to you before, if you are someone who's ready for coaching and you are ready to gain your life back, and you know you're definitely feeling probably a little hopelessness and just frustration, all the emotions, right? If that's you and you're ready to do something about it and you are ready for coaching, then I encourage you, invite you to click the discovery call link that is in the description below, and you can connect with me there to set up an appointment for a consultation where I can learn more about you and I can share how I can help. Number 2 is avoiding comparisons and self-judgment. Those 2 things go hand in hand, because we are judging ourselves when we're comparing ourselves to someone else. Like, we're judging ourselves as if maybe our duration of grief or what we're going through is worse or maybe better, or you're judging yourself because you're not handling it as well as you would like to. So each mom that I serve, each parent in general is unique, right? And so you can't compare that journey, just like you can't compare your son or daughter to someone else's, because our kids have gone through different things in their life. We've gone through different things in our life, but comparison trap can be detrimental. And I want you to just be really mindful of that, because I don't want you to get caught up in that trap. With no 2 relationships in your life are the same, just like your children are not the same, right? So because we have our own experiences, and because I encourage you to have self-compassion for yourself and accept this grief, these emotions without criticism, just acknowledge them. So your body doesn't need to fight them off. They need to accept where you're at the moment, but just try really hard not to stay there, right? And that's the problem, is we get wrapped up in these emotions and these thoughts, and the words that we speak are not life-breathing or life-giving to ourselves at all. So I would encourage you also to ask yourself, what would you tell your best friend to do with her daughter or her son? Because that takes the emotion out of it a little bit. And if your best friend was struggling with grief or struggling with, anxiety or depression or any of these things, what would you say to them? How would you encourage them? And that's the same encouragement you need to give to yourself. So number 3 is I want you to focus on your self-healing and self-care journey, because this is the piece that so many moms miss. Because if you're not prioritizing your healing, right? Your healing of your own body, and really self-care is in your complete control, because I can't do that for you and no one else can do that for you either. And I know that grief can be so physically and emotionally draining, which is all the more reason why we have to stay on top of this. And so including, just get your pen and paper out, start journaling your thoughts, start pursuing those hobbies that are something that you've always wanted to do, or maybe just, have just set aside for a while. Talk with those supportive family members, figure out who those people are in your life. Join a support group. I have my group coaching program I could talk to you about on one of those calls. Those are the kinds of things we go through in my coaching program. So, but taking care of your own well-being is just so crucial. And then that way it's going to help you navigate this whole, the complexities of grief, because grief is one of the most complex emotions because there's so many emotions wrapped up in it, right? So we don't want to stay there, but it's very normal to be there. And so I just want to encourage you in that today, because everyone will find their own way to cope with the estrangement, because I know you're missing your son or your daughter. And with that, you just have to be kind to yourself and be loving towards yourself as you would anyone else. So I hope that helps you today. I'll see you in the next video.